Well, President Drake and Secretary Givens, thanks for the opportunity to address the Senate this afternoon on the state of academic affairs. I'm especially grateful for you granting me an hour and 17 minutes. My faculty colleagues, of course, are breathing a sigh of relief because they know that faculty are hardwired for 50 minutes and they stop automatically. And I'll share that my last formal time in the classroom, in fact, was a course that I taught from 8 to 12 on Saturday mornings. And so your relief is poorly placed. This is my fourth opportunity to address this group, and it's always a privilege and a point of great pride to talk about our accomplishments from the previous year. What you'll hear today is evidence of a university that's working hard and working together to set a new standard of excellence as we prepare in the coming year to celebrate 150 years of serving the people of Ohio, the nation, and the world. You've heard us talk a lot about our strategic plan. Our vision for the future, the Time and Change strategic plan, is based on the mission and values that we've established as a university. The goals that we've set in that document and that we'll continue to refine are intended to leverage our excellence so that Ohio State will necessarily be part of every significant conversation in higher education. The pillars we've defined in the strategic plan are purposefully chosen. We spent significant time thinking about what all of those truly important conversations are that are occurring around us in our disciplines. One of the most important outcomes that I would argue we can achieve as an institution is to have Ohio State operating at such a high level that our peers look to us to be a part of every one of those significant conversations. To quote Aaron Burr, as represented in the musical Hamilton, we want to be in the room where it happens. Achieving these aspirations will both reflect and enhance our reputation among our peers. But ultimately, the success that we enjoy is a function of the collective effort to realize the potential of Ohio State. This is a dynamic, evolving process in which we're called to participate. The significant conversations in higher education are at our level, the president's level, my level, but they begin at your level, among your peers as students, staff, and faculty of the university within your own disciplines. I'd like to start today with a few topics that'll seem familiar from past year's remarks. Let me start with general education. We have a responsibility as an institution of higher learning to create the future. That's a really succinct mission statement for Ohio State and for our peer institutions. Our job is to create the future. We do this through new discoveries, new analyses, new art, but we also create the future through the education of our students. Our graduates will lead society, but only if we help them by providing the right tools in their education. And this, I would submit, is the role of general education. Majors provide an important honing and expansion of skills, but a strong general education platform provides the foundation upon which our students will build their understanding of society, our past, our present, our future. And furthermore, it'll sharpen our students' abilities to assemble, evaluate, and align disparate ideas and turn those ideas into action. Our first comprehensive review of the Gen Ed in 30 years is still a work in progress, but I'll report that the process is moving forward. A year ago, the review committee, led by Professors Larry Krissick, Andrew Martin, and Catherine Montalto, and facilitated by Vice Provost Randy Smith, released its draft proposal after soliciting feedback broadly from the university community. Since then, the colleges and campuses that serve undergraduate students have been studying the proposal and offering modifications. Once all 12 undergraduate serving colleges in our regional campuses have approved the plan, it would advance to the Council on Academic Affairs and then to this body. Upon approval, we'll tackle the job of implementing the plan, a process that involves, among other things, adjusting budgets, redesigning courses, and reducing major requirements to allow more space for electives, minors, and second majors. So there's still a lot of work to do, but we fully anticipate a launch of the new general education program in the autumn of 2021. Since the University Senate initiated this review 2 years ago, it's been a faculty-driven process throughout. To all of you who've given your time and offered your insights, thank you for helping us develop a curriculum that could not only provide our students with a foundation for the deep subject matter of their majors, but also provide them with a broader context needed to be citizens of the world. So likewise, the university undertook a conversation on graduate education to determine where to focus our attention over the next decade, given the changing nature of graduate education itself and the employment options for our graduate students. The final report from that exercise identified 3 target areas: diversity and inclusion, professional development regardless of career path, and the funding environment for graduate education. Now, about a year ago, shortly after I spoke to this body, we were pleased to announce the appointment of Dr. Alicia Bertone, Professor of Veterinary Clinical Sciences, as Vice Provost and Dean for Graduate Education. Since that time, she and her team have moved on several fronts, building from the input received from previous student, faculty, and staff fora. This included revising the graduate school's fellowship guideline documents with input from all of our graduate programs. These documents are now in use. Second phase of that program is focused on improving efficiency of the fellowship administration process. And to that end, the graduate school is working with the Enterprise Project to change the fellowship nomination and review process into a one-stop operation. Any of you who have been on the review process know that it has had cumbersome associated with its descriptor in the past. And that one-stop operation will be compatible with Workday when we go live with that system. The project on nomination and review is actually scheduled to go live sooner for the 2020 fellowship process, which will commence in autumn semester of this calendar year. Another key deliverable from Alicia and her team was the revision of the graduate student handbook, which has now been added to the graduate school website. That was an easy sentence to say, but that was a huge amount of work and a huge amount of consultation to accomplish. And thanks to the Comprehensive Energy Management Partnership, we've added additional financial resources for graduate education. The grad school dean's position was endowed, and through that, the graduate school received a $12.5 million endowment for graduate and professional student scholarships and fellowships. These resources, complemented by ongoing philanthropic efforts and by the continued great work of our faculty to secure extramural funding, will support our aspiration to fund 100% of incoming doctoral students and the majority of master's students for all years there at Ohio State. Beginning this semester, the graduate school has also launched a bridge program that grants graduate standing and provides assistance for up to a year for students whose mentors feel graduate studies are a possibility, but who may lack some key preparation. The students will be mentored by their graduate programs as potential recruits and afforded additional time, coursework, or other adaptations to make a successful transition. A third update topic is our progress in diversity and inclusion, an area that naturally overlaps with access, affordability, and excellence from our strategic plan. To accomplish the success and innovation envisioned in our strategic plan, we're creating pathways into the university for qualified students regardless of their means or background. And you heard the president speak about this a couple of months ago in his address. We include in these students who come from Ohio's major urban centers and from our Appalachian landscapes. And once they're here, we have to work hard and are working hard to ensure that they graduate. The Young Scholars Program, which identifies academically talented first-generation students with high financial need, serves more than 1,000 students statewide including 700 students in grades 9 through 12. By the way, it just so happens that Ohio State is celebrating that program's 30th anniversary today, in fact, immediately after this event. Last May, I had the pleasure to announce the appointment of James L. Moore III as Vice Provost for Diversity and Inclusion and Chief Diversity Officer of the university. James had served, as you are likely aware, in an interim leadership role in that office during the previous year, and under his direction, the university's continued to make significant strides. For example, we pursued and captured key grant support, including a $4.5 million award from the National Science Foundation to expand our efforts to retain and graduate more underrepresented students pursuing STEM degrees. That's the largest federal grant ever obtained by the Office of Diversity and Inclusion. Furthermore, we forged several key partnerships. For example, J.P. Morgan Chase made a $2.5 million investment in the Young Scholars and Moral Scholars programs. I'll remind you that the Moral Scholars is the origin of our two most recent Rhodes Scholars from here at Ohio State. The U.S. Department of Education awarded us a grant of $1.4 million to help us provide child care services for 45 Pell-eligible student parents. And Columbus philanthropists Missy and Bob Weiler gave more than $800,000 to create the Dr. James L. Moore III Scholars Program to support undergraduate students transferring from Columbus State to Ohio State. In any given year, Columbus State represents about 50% of the transfer students coming into the Columbus campus. It's important to reiterate that our efforts to improve access and affordability and diversity and inclusion also are efforts to raise our level of excellence. We can't be the university we aspire to be. We can't fully serve the people of Ohio and the world without embracing different ideas, voices, and experiences. It's the lifeblood of a university and a source of its greatness. Our regional campuses are critical in pursuit of this because they provide the opportunity for any Ohio high school graduate to share in the Buckeye experience and earn an Ohio State degree. The expansion of the Buckeye Opportunity Program to the regional campuses, which began this semester, is meant to do just that. The program ensures that all Ohio resident Pell-eligible students who carry a full-time academic program remain in good academic status and complete or enroll, this a lot of things here, a lot of conditions, but important in the success of these folks, and complete or enroll in the University Exploration course will have their tuition and mandatory fees covered after all other aid is received. And our hope, and you heard the president talk about this previously, is that by reducing financial stress and perhaps by removing the need to work additional jobs, students can focus on academics and make progress toward their degrees. We'll be watching closely for the retention and graduation rate metrics of students affected by these programs. In addition, we're helping students on our regional campuses by expanding learning communities, identifying and engaging tutors to assist in traditional stumbling block courses, and adding advising capacity on several campuses. And just last month, we were pleased to announce the expansion of STEP, the second-year transformational experience program, to the regional campuses as a 3-year pilot program beginning in autumn semester 2019. Our focus on diversifying our faculty continues to be critically important as well. Just last week, Kay Wolf and James Moore led a discussion with our deans at our spring retreat on tools to better support our priority to have a more diverse and excellent faculty. And we know that we still have work to do there. Fourth on my review list is teaching and learning. In his address to the Senate 2 months ago, President Drake noted the progress of the University Institute for Teaching and Learning and its teaching support program, which UITL launched last autumn. As of mid-March, 1,157 eligible faculty had completed the first 2 components of the teaching support program and are now eligible to take part in the 3rd section of the program, instructional redesign, which has just launched this semester. By applying the evidence-based practices learned in the first two components, the teaching practices inventory and the online modules and readings, faculty are encouraged to transform instructional strategy they've used in the past, or perhaps to develop a new approach to improve student learning and to enhance their own classroom experience. We're watching eagerly to see the results of the instructional innovations that our faculty develop, and look forward to sharing the high-impact practices with faculty across the university. By the way, just an editorial comment, I encourage our eligible faculty to take advantage of the teaching support program to enhance your own development and further support the students in your classrooms. Many of you have begun the curriculum. About twice as many as have completed the full set of inventory and modules have actually started at least the inventory. And I'll just plant the seed that May might be a great time to finish that out, and just think about it, pass it on if it seems like a good idea. While I'm on the subject, I'm happy to tell you that the next academic year, 1920, we will offer the teaching support program to our graduate students. We've worked with Jack Miner and his team in the registrar's office so that grad students who complete the program will have a designation of teaching preparation added to their transcripts. I encourage our graduate students, and not just the TAs, but all of our graduate students, to see this as something that will set them apart from their peers graduating from other institutions. And just as we're investing in our teaching faculty, we're also investing in our academic advisors, and for exactly the same reason. They have a tremendous impact on student success. As part of the university's commitment to advisors, the career roadmap for advisors was developed and included pay equity adjustments and implementation of a new job family focused on advising. Taken together, those steps will allow advisors to grow in their roles without having to leave the profession or the university. In addition, Ohio State's created the John Wanzer Professional Development Fund, which will provide funds each year for continuing education that will enable advisors to become better informed about the latest research in student success, including technologies, evidence-based interventions, and data-informed decision-making. The driving purpose, as you can imagine, behind our efforts to enhance teaching and learning is to ensure that our graduates have the knowledge, skills, and resilience to adjust to a constantly changing world. In other words, we're committed to the fact that outcomes matter. Governor DeWine actually made workforce development a priority for his administration, and I realize we don't call what we do, as a general rule, workforce development, but we are, in fact, producing the graduates who power society into the future. Whether it's engineers or accountants, healthcare professionals or lawyers, the people who feed us or the people who inspire us with art and literature, our graduates are the leaders of the next generation. Many of you were here last month when President Drake mentioned this, but I think it bears repeating. Last fall, a Times Higher Education survey of employers named our Ohio State graduates as number 17 nationally in employability and number 2 behind only the University of California at Berkeley among public universities. It's a real testament to our students and to the effort that our faculty writ large take in preparing them for the future. At the core, we aspire to create a culture of learning in our students so they're both equipped and inclined to be lifelong learners, whether it's for professional development or just for the sheer enjoyment of learning. We owe the future an agile, well-educated citizenry. Our online expansion and the growth of certificate programs greatly support that goal as well. It was just 6 years ago that we created the Office of Distance Education and E-Learning, and we now have 19 programs and 12 certificate programs that are available online. Equally telling, nearly 42% of our Columbus undergraduate students this semester are taking at least one online course section. Nearly 42%. In fact, this semester, there are more registrations in general education courses being offered online than in face-to-face sections. In many ways, we've surpassed our expectations for expanding the Ohio State experience through hybrid and online delivery. But it's about more than expansion, it's about quality. U.S. News and World Report has ranked our bachelor's degree online programs number 3 in the nation among all public and private universities, and our online graduate nursing program is number 1 among public universities. Further, we're helping to address the needs of both our students and the state with the addition of new micro-credential programs, including standalone certificates. Those sorts of programs allow our students and Ohioans in general to receive additional education focused in an area within a compressed timeline. In 2016, the Council on Academic Affairs of the Senate approved a template for certificate approval that covers undergraduate, graduate, and workforce development options. And since then, 27 new 4-credit certificates have been approved, supplementing a similar number of already established certificates. And in addition, we currently offer approximately 50 not-for-credit certificates. Let me highlight the added value of this, first for current students and then for what I would refer to as returning students. For current students, the certificate programs provide an opportunity to supplement their education by exploring a topic apart from their major. Take, for example, the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Certificate that was approved by the Arts and Sciences Curriculum Committee and is making its way to the Council on Academic Affairs. Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, one of 5 certificates that Arts and Sciences hopes to have ready for fall delivery, focuses on 3 dimensions that are often responsible for major divisions in society: social class and economic inequalities, race and ethnicity, and gender. And so consequently, the curriculum would include courses from areas as diverse as sociology, comparative studies, geography, political science, economics, African American and African studies, and women's gender and sexuality studies. For working Ohioans, those returning students, the certificate and micro-credential programs create a path that could lead to new career opportunities and promotions. Included among the programs that we're developing and offer are partnerships with major employers such as Ford, General Motors, J.P. Morgan Chase, and the Ohio Department of Public Safety. We anticipate adding more certificates in the future, and we'll be committed to evaluating them, of course, to ensure that they meet the rigor that defines all of our Ohio State programs. My 5th reflection is to update you on a conversation that actually took place at our Academic Leaders Forum last September. Every fall, we gather all of our academic leaders, chairs, directors, deans, vice provosts together for a retreat for a day to discuss the scholarship of leadership. And one of our topics last year was how to establish an equitable and predictable culture of reward for faculty. This is an important issue that affects not only promotion and tenure, but it affects how we teach and how we recognize new forms of scholarship. It's particularly relevant because our methods of working have become more interconnected and interdisciplinary. And the products of our scholarly work are in fact sometimes seen as unconventional relative to our past assessments. Kay Wolf, our recently promoted Senior Vice Provost, is ensuring that this conversation continues. Just think for a moment about our new faculty hires and how they conduct their work. We bring them in seeking innovation, fresh ideas, and we bring them here actually to change the trajectory of their disciplines. But let's ask this question: are we truly prepared to evaluate and reward their approach to their work? How do we reward faculty who apply their scholarship in non-traditional ways, for example, through service and collaborative teaching, interdisciplinary initiatives, community-engaged scholarship, or digital research? Arriving at solutions for equitable reward takes time, but we're making progress. Across the university, K has worked just in the past year with approximately 30 units to update their APT documents, often to reflect a greater emphasis on team research and teaching expectations. Additionally, funding expectations are now often defined to include entrepreneurial and industry sources and not just federal funding sources that have been the standards in many disciplines. The flexibility that colleges and units have in the ATP process affords the opportunity to regularly refine our standards of excellence and to revise the documents that define the criteria. We'll continue this important conversation across the university. Before I spend a few minutes looking toward the year ahead, let me reflect a moment on our academic leadership team here at Ohio State. Alan Michaels, Dean of the Moritz College of Law since 2008, will be stepping down to return to teaching and research, and likewise Bill Martin is stepping down after 6 years as Dean of the College of Public Health. I'd like to offer them my sincere thanks for their hard work and dedication. Their pursuit of excellence exemplifies the spirit of leadership that we have here at Ohio State. In addition to the searches in those colleges, we're working hard to fill the position of Executive Dean and Vice Provost in Arts and Sciences. Jan Bach-Steffensmeyer has been leading that college in an interim capacity since last July, and I'm so very grateful for her exceptional leadership. Our efforts in each of these colleges will yield fruit. We've progressed well, and we hope to bring the searches to conclusion in the next couple of weeks. Within academic affairs, we're also in the midst of searches to fill the position of Vice Provost for Academic Policy and Faculty Resources, Kay Wolf's previous role, and the position of Associate Vice President for our newly created Office of Institutional Equity that will roll up Title IX, ADA, EEO, and a whole alphabet soup of other things that are very important for us to attend to. In the past year, a number of leaders have come on board or have been reappointed. I've mentioned a few of them, and you'll see those individuals on the screen here as we look forward. I'm so appreciative when our faculty colleagues step forward to take on leadership positions. The shared governance that's represented by this body and the willingness of faculty to step up and provide leadership is really what leads this university forward. In the coming year, I've actually challenged all of my vice provosts to adopt a model of engaging faculty administrative fellows in their offices. These temporary appointments will do even more to ensure that we have a robust faculty voice in academic affairs here at Ohio State. In addition to the appointments and reappointments that you saw illustrated, stay tuned. We will have other announcements coming in the near future to a station near you. One last thought while I'm on the topic of leadership, and I can't see through the light here. I'll chance it. You may know that our Senior Vice President for Student Life, Javon Adams-Gaston, is leaving Ohio State to assume the presidency at Norfolk State University in Virginia. Dr. J, I know you're still recuperating from knee surgery, but give a wave. She's back there. How about a round of applause? Well, after that, I'm more certain of what I'm about to say than when I wrote it. I think I speak for everyone here. I now feel very confident in that, and for the university community in general, when I say that you will be dearly missed. Your leadership over the past more than 10 years has had an extraordinary impact on the quality of student life and learning here at Ohio State. I'm certain that you'll find as much love and admiration and success at Norfolk State as you've enjoyed here. And please know that we send our very best wishes with you and Dimitri as you go on to this next exciting chapter in your life. So thanks so much, Dr. J. Well, now let me shift gears, and I'll close out my remarks today with a focus on the year ahead. And I'll start specifically with two items. And it's an opportunity. I've reflected on the strategic plan and the importance of the strategic plan in driving what we do. And yes, we're doing more planning. But yes, it's absolutely essential that you be engaged. Those areas, research and global engagement, are absolutely critical to building up our time and change strategic plan. These areas are fundamental to our mission. We cannot be a leading national public research university without being a leading global public research university. In the past year, we've had the pleasure to welcome new leaders in research and in international affairs, Morley Stone as Senior Vice President for Research and Gil Latz as Vice Provost for Global Strategies and International Affairs. And each of them is in the midst of a strategic planning process designed to support our university's plan. Through the work undertaken by Morley and his team, the research and creative expression pillars being developed to really enhance our position among the top national and international public universities. To ensure that we heard from the diverse voices of our research and creative enterprise, we've surveyed our community, and more than 750 of you took time to respond to give guidance to this effort. So clearly there is substantial interest in the outcomes of this. As part of their planning, Morley's team's taking a closer look at each phase of the research cycle. This includes examining how to maximize funding and how to identify opportunities well before the research begins. If you've been paying attention to your email, I realize mine go to your spam folder, so look there if you've missed these. You'll have seen the newly announced Strategic Research Travel Program, which supports our goals of getting ahead of the research process by providing travel funds so that Ohio State faculty and PIs can make early contact with potential funders. We are a research powerhouse now, but we can be better. Best practice actually demonstrates that our faculty can become engaged not in just responding to research RFPs, but actually helping to craft those research RFPs. It's another example. We want to be in those conversations. We want to be in that room where it happens. Morley's team's also looking at ways to multiply impact once research is finished, for example, through increased licensing and commercialization opportunities. And at the same time, they're studying how best to support faculty recruitment and retention and how to build research infrastructure that is globally leading, including the West Campus Innovation District. And significantly, they're looking at how to enhance community impact and increase the interconnections of our research programs. All of this, of course, is meant to enhance a research enterprise that's already recognized for its excellence. One, in fact, in which over 140 different national and international learned societies have recognized our faculty just this year with a variety of awards. In fact, Ohio State will be on the world stage April 8th when distinguished university professor Ratan Lal is awarded the Japan Prize, one of the most prestigious honors in science and technology. He'll be recognized for his research on sustainable soil management and its role in improving global food security and mitigating climate change. He'll receive his award in a ceremony that will be attended by the Emperor and Empress of Japan, government leaders, foreign ambassadors, eminent scholars, and members of the Global Press Corps. Like Morley, Gil and his team in international affairs are involved in planning that will also advance the university's time and change plan. Specifically, they're focused on communicating our international successes as they relate to the 5 pillars of the plan. As part of the strategic planning process, they're collaborating with colleges and many stakeholders to look at the exemplary practices at universities around the country to find the right strategies that can enhance great ideas we've created here at Ohio State, but build on the many strengths and our history of global activity and accomplishments. More than ever, our university's progress depends on the global alliances that we establish with universities, with private sector partners, with government and NGO. It depends on our ability to broaden the international education of our students by providing more opportunities for them to study, travel, and work abroad. And it truly depends on an ability to attract the world's best and brightest students and faculty to Ohio State's classrooms, labs, and studios. In the international perspective, we'll look at our research portfolio, our teaching collaborations, how we serve learning for both domestic and international students, and how we take our great engagement even more effectively into the global community. And we'll examine how best to leverage our global gateway presences to underscore our impact. As we move forward, you'll be hearing more about a planning committee that's just being formed involving colleges across the university that will help us develop a strategic, comprehensive plan to identify specific goals to integrate global opportunities university-wide. The last topic I want to touch on today is the notion of working across boundaries, of taking full advantage of the comprehensive nature of this university through mechanisms that pull people together. This is the multiplier that will change the trajectory of Ohio State. At the heart of it, meaningful interdisciplinary collaboration requires that we bring two things to the table. First, we need a deep knowledge of our disciplines. We can't be effective across disciplines without strength within our disciplines. And second, we need to bring a willingness, an eagerness, in fact, to engage with scholars from other disciplines. Excellent teams build from excellent individuals on those teams. Our breadth and depth, a phrase that comes up a lot when we talk about Ohio State, is the rich, abundant soil where interdisciplinarity takes root. The expertise we bring in the remarkable range of disciplines that we embrace set us apart from most universities because of the abundant opportunities they produce. We see this in endeavors big and small. For example, in our curriculum, our faculty across the university are constantly recreating our curriculum to embrace emerging opportunities. The successful creation of the data analytics program just a few years ago is one tangible example, which we recently highlighted to our Board of Trustees. An emerging example is our esports program, which has garnered national attention even in its early formative stages. This program would provide an interdisciplinary curriculum spanning 5 colleges: engineering, education and human ecology, arts and sciences, business, and medicine are all engaged in the planning. In addition, the program will offer unique opportunities that will extend our research, and there will be unique opportunities that spill over into student life and added value for the student experience. Likewise, the College of Arts and Sciences has augmented its curricula by launching 5 new interdisciplinary undergraduate majors this year. These integrated majors span the spectrum. For example, the Italian Studies major involves courses from departments that include classics, English, history, history of art, medieval and Renaissance studies, music, and the Knowlton School of Architecture, and I would assume Italian. And the integrated major in math and English, which I find absolutely intriguing, combines the knowledge, precision, and analytical skills acquired through the Department of Mathematics with the reading, composition methods, writing, information processing taught by our colleagues in the Department of English. And just as this is true in our curriculum, it's true in our research. Just a couple of months ago, we approved the now newly established Sustainability Institute, led by Faculty Director Alina Irwin and Executive Director Kate Barter. And that initiative embodies this experience. Sustainability is an inherently interdisciplinary topic encompassing natural and physical sciences, social and behavioral sciences, engineering, public health, business, law, planning, policy, arts and humanities. I think I've just defined the university here in the breadth From our discussion of the Institute proposal, you'll recall that there are more than 600 faculty that have self-identified as being engaged in sustainability research across the university. And we offer 74 undergraduate majors, master's programs, and doctoral degrees that list at least one sustainability-related learning outcome as a component of their program. Few universities can match this comprehensive approach, and few universities can offer the breadth of expertise from climate change to materials and energy technology innovation to resilient infrastructure design to environmental health. All of those opportunities blending together, an arena where faculty, staff, and students can gather to share ideas, really provides an opportunity that is unparalleled among our peers. There are an awful lot of examples of stellar interdisciplinary work, and I'll just highlight a few that I see as making a difference or on the cusp of making a difference in the lives of Ohioans and people across the nation and world. Let me start by just considering the work that we've done around water quality and particularly harmful algal blooms in Lake Erie and other Ohio waters. These problems affect and threaten our citizens' drinking water, and Ohio State's working with researchers from 9 other Ohio universities, multiple state agencies on the Harmful Algal Bloom Research Initiative, which is a project that was funded by the Ohio Department of Higher Education and managed by Ohio Sea Grant and the University of Toledo. Now in its 4th year, the project has included partners from as far away in the U.S. as South Dakota and partners from across the ocean in Japan. This program, which aligns with a current initiative in the DeWine administration, one of his signature initiatives, is now attracting significant funding from federal competitive grant sources as well. And the success builds from a culture that enables faculty to find and engage with scholars across disciplines and across campuses. We were one of 4 U.S. universities invited to compete in the Alliance for the American Dream initiative, sponsored by the Schmidt Futures organization. For those of you who don't make the immediate connection, Eric Schmidt, Schmidt Futures, is the former CEO of Google and Alphabet. 3 Ohio State-led teams competed, and I'm happy to say that a project called the Power of Home team was selected to advance to the final round of this competition. In all, 12 teams from the 4 universities, along with us, it was Arizona State, the University of Utah, and the University of Wisconsin, took part in this competition, which focused on developing ideas to strengthen the middle class and help move people out of poverty. Dr. Stephanie Moulton of the John Glenn College of Public Affairs leads the team. She and her colleagues and community partners hope to leverage home ownership to improve social mobility. To do so, the team is planning to develop tools and resources that will help low and moderate income first-time home buyers achieve sustained economic security. Many folks in this position find themselves in their first home with no cash when the first emergency emerges. And so this project is designed to build resilience into their lives. This is just one more example of how the intellectual power of Ohio State can translate into benefits for the society that supports our university. Our land-grant heritage drives us to constantly think about these sorts of ideas. How do we consolidate our strengths to address apparently intractable problems? And how do we translate our discoveries into practice for the benefit of society? The opioid crisis and addiction more broadly is one very obvious such problem, and we have an opportunity to leverage our wide-ranging experience to fight this scourge. In the coming weeks, we actually hope to hear back favorably from the National Institutes of Health about a grant proposal that would bring together a broad cross-section of experts to develop and implement a set of evidence-based interventions to prevent and treat opioid abuse in 19 Ohio counties, including Franklin County. If funded, the grant would designate Ohio as one of 3 research sites under the Healing Communities study. Rebecca Jackson, from the College of Medicine and director of Ohio State's Center for Clinical and Translational Science, is leading the effort and serving as principal investigator, but 36 other Ohio State faculty members are participating, representing the colleges of medicine, public health, public affairs, social work, nursing, education and human ecology, engineering, arts and sciences, and CFAES through OSU Extension. The partnership supports and is integrated with Recovery Ohio, which is Governor DeWine's statewide initiative to reverse the addiction crisis. It also involves multiple state and federal agencies and experts from five other Ohio academic institutions, including the University of Cincinnati, Case Western Reserve, Ohio University, University of Toledo, and Wright State. And it also involves Nationwide and Cincinnati Children's Hospitals. I would submit that it takes a place like ours to convene a conversation like that and lead us forward to success. While the national grant would jumpstart our efforts on this topic, we will move forward with our multidisciplinary approach no matter what the outcome of the review process is. There's just too much at stake to ignore this issue, and we have so much to offer. Our students also know the inspirational power of crossing boundaries. For example, look at our perennially successful EcoCar team, which has placed first for the past 5 consecutive years in the Advanced Vehicle Technology Competition sponsored by the U.S. Department of Energy and General Motors. The team's currently competing against 11 other universities to re-engineer a Chevy Blazer to equip it with smart technology. The 85 members of this team at Ohio State represent majors as diverse as various engineering disciplines, strategic communications, design, and zoology. Or consider Launchpad OSU, a weekend startup event where teams of students from a broad cross-section of majors recently competed to develop ideas for businesses. The same goes for Hack Ohio, which grows in popularity each year. Of the more than 750 students who compete to develop technology apps, devices, and projects, more than a quarter of them come from disciplines outside the fields of engineering. Crossover collaborations and interdisciplinary partnerships are at the core of what we do here at Ohio State. And while these unions begin on campus, they almost always end up extending into the community where they improve lives. We see that with our work in Lake Erie, with the projects that have emerged from the Alliance for the American Dream, with our aspirations on our efforts to address addiction. But it's evident in less obvious ways too. For instance, the joy that an audience feels when Ohio State dance majors collaborate with Ballet Met, or the comfort that homebound adults get when our nursing, vet med, and social work students care for them and their pets. Our strengths lie in the depth and diversity of our knowledge, but our impact comes from how adroitly we bring people together to maximize those strengths and how well we use that synergy to help our communities. In other words, how well we engage with the world. Outreach and engagement, the translation of our research findings to practice to solve world problems, has always been an integral part of our mission, and it will continue to be every bit as important in our next 150 years. I'd like to thank Associate Vice Provost Stephen Myers for his commitment in leading the Office of Outreach and Engagement for the past 5 years, and I look forward to its continued success under Vice Provost Ryan Schmiesing in his new role. As I close today, let me reiterate that we have a compass to guide our direction as a university, but for the students, a compass is an app on your phone. It's like a GPS that you hold in your hand. But understand that our exact course is far from set. The Time and Change strategic plan was created to hold us accountable, but also to be flexible, to allow us to refine our route to get where we need to be as a global public flagship research university. All of us have a voice in the course of this university. At the heart of our planning initiatives are the significant conversations that inform those initiatives. And the insights and experience of the faculty, and of the broader university community have driven and will continue to drive those conversations. Ultimately, we're called to look into the future and to marshal the courage to initiate change, not merely react to it. This is the privilege we enjoy and hold dear as stewards of The Ohio State University. So I urge you to take part in those conversations that are most important in your disciplines. Be in the room where it happens, in the area that you touch. The strength of Ohio State is our collective desire to make a difference. And we are making a difference in so many different areas of society, but we can do more. By continuing to work together, continuing to open our minds to new perspectives and embrace new challenges, we can become the university we're destined to be, a university at the heart of every significant conversation in higher education. Let's make the most of that opportunity. President Drake, Secretary Givens, this concludes my report on the state of academic affairs. I argued that the microphones were set up here in case there were questions about the Secretary's report, but he assures me that if there's any energy left in the room, I think I've nearly done my job of actually lecturing you into oblivion, but should there be a question or comment, we'd certainly delight in spending a minute to address that. Yes?
You mentioned that 42% of students are enrolled in online courses. So obviously this is an issue affecting a huge number of students and faculty. Could you kind of talk about how you're working to ensure that the online courses
I'll repeat your question, so.
Could you just talk about the ways that you're ensuring that the online courses are held to the same standard in terms of education?
Yeah, terrific question, and it's one that's come up. It came up before we had the Office of Distance Education and E-Learning, and it's continued to come up throughout, and that is, how do we ensure that the quality of courses remains high in all venues? My informal way is that I quiz the students at the front desk in my office in 203 Bricker, and all of whom seem to be engaged in online learning at some time or other about how their experience is going. But formally, actually, there's a lot of assessment that goes on. Faculty have mixed experiences with different mechanisms delivering their courses, and part of the whole teaching support program is to kind of lift all of our eyes to the different ways that one can give education, but it all fails if we don't adhere to high quality standards. So research through the University Institute for Teaching and Learning, UCAT, the University Center for Advancement of Teaching, now is part of that institute, and they continue to do their work. ODEE has its own approaches to assessing quality, and we ask our chairs and deans to monitor this at the local level and have conversations with faculty, and we monitor the feedback from students. The SEI is not the best mechanism for gaining deep insights into the quality of those classes, but in point of fact, some of the research we're doing right now, we have an ad hoc group that's actually looking at alternative assessment measures for quality of teaching, and that should include quality of course offerings as well. Something we have to pay close attention to. Yes?
Hi. My name is Adler. I'm a graduate senator. I was wondering if you had any updates with the student financial aid journey or the scholarship piece.
The question was around a couple of tools that student government has been very interested in. We have hundreds, maybe thousands of scholarship opportunities here at the university, and too many of them remain out of sight for eligible students at the application period. And so one of the things that we have pledged to work on, and we're trying to work on it through the transitions that we have under the Enterprise Project, so a broad business transformation that will have a student component, but this will be an add-on experience. And Beth, I think we actually have figured out a pathway on this to get this rolling. What we want to do is to have a student be able to evaluate all of the scholarship opportunities for which they might apply. One, to benefit our students in terms of financial aid, but also two, because we end up with a lot of scholarships that go unclaimed, and in very pragmatic terms, it's hard to woo a donor to come back to give another scholarship if you've not been able to award their first scholarship. And so we have a responsibility, the people who've been so generous in setting those up, to put that money to work. And putting it to work to support our students and reduce debt is highest and best purpose. Yes, we're just going right down the line here.
Continuing down. Luckily, my voice reverberates on its own, so I don't need that. I just wondered if you talked about online courses. Have there been any modifications made to common courses to make them more accessible to students with disabilities?
I don't know the answer to that question specifically. I will tell you that in the past 4 months, we actually have worked with Scott Lissner, who leads our ADA office, on the accessibility of all of our web presence. This is something that is a national concern in higher education, and we have developed a plan and have begun to implement that plan of actually beginning that process. In that discussion, accessibility of courses was one of the things that was mentioned. In fact, in talking with Shamina and Sean just this week, as we move forward on developing the next enterprise application for the digital flagship exercise, one of the things that we're having to work through is some of the third-party vendors don't actually have that accessibility built into their apps. And so it's become something that we're very mindful of, and it certainly is part of that conversation.
Thank you.
Yes, Kate. Yeah, just pass it right down. Luis, you're going to be you're on deck.
In the realm of affordability, I'm Kate, by the way, undergraduate senator. In the realm of affordability, some of the major expenses that students face are for learning materials for courses, so textbooks, access codes, and with recent developments in technology, of course, apps, online subscriptions, and there are so many really amazing initiatives around Ohio State, such as the textbook reserve in the libraries and Equitable Learning Exchange and Carmen books to help alleviate some of these expenses. And of course, it's an issue that's very important to students. And so I'm just wondering what you see as your office's role in making learning materials more affordable.
Well, I'll watch Dr. Hume and Dr. Bertone for any additions or corrections to this, but this is a central piece of what we need to work with. Clearly, determining the learning materials for a particular subject lies with our faculty and bringing it forward from that. Our job is to actually help our faculty find sources and or develop sources that would touch on some of the concerns that you've raised. I think in a lot of cases, the textbook market has changed, the development of the access codes and the devaluing of even buying a textbook and being able to resell it is something that for many of us sort of flew under the radar for us because we were assigning, not buying the book. And so I think the voice that our student government has brought forward in the last year and a half or 2 years has been really important in elevating this. I spoke to the Big Ten Academic Alliance CIOs who were gathered here this morning. I think most of you know, but our CIO reports to me. And so I have a very close connection with these elements. And so one of the things we talked about was our work with the Affordable Learning Exchange, where we're leveraging any of you that need to change your internet at home. If you go to WOW, which you get, I have painted lines in my front yard right now. They're very active around Columbus, but they actually provide a percentage of their charges to the university. And the CIO's office actually reinvests that money back into supporting the Affordable Learning Exchange and helping faculty create new forms of low-cost online materials. And so I think finding creative ways to really enhance the number that I gave to the CIOs this morning was the projects that we have done are now at a $5.5 million per year savings run rate for students across the university. But there's more to be done. So our job really in academic affairs is to, first of all, make sure that our faculty are aware of these issues, but secondly, provide them with resources and the technical assistance that allow them to take a different approach. Yes,
Hi, Ryan Skinner, newly elected faculty senator.
welcome aboard.
Thank you. You mentioned that the teaching support program was going to be extended to graduate students in the 2019-2020 academic year, and that they would have the opportunity of receiving a teaching preparation credential, which I think is fantastic. But also, given the fact that so many of our students struggle to acquire research and professional development funds, I'm wondering if there's also, as there were for faculty, financial incentives for taking part in that program.
It's a great question. For those of you that might not have heard it, the teaching support program for our faculty, we've been able to link that to financial salary compensation for completing that, because we feel that lifting up our collective awareness of teaching approaches is something that really lifts the success of the university, and it's worth thinking about. We've talked about this with our 11,000 plus graduate student population in mind, and we do not have a funding source aligned with that. Our starting point is this credential. We've been working on the other end of graduate student support in 4 consecutive years of raising the minimum salaries, which in many disciplines has then lifted up some of the more highly paid categories, realizing that our grad assistantships don't fully penetrate into the graduate student population. And so I think this is something that Alicia and I have talked about a couple of times. It kind of fits in their aspiration, which I referenced, to provide funding for our PhD students and as many of our master's programs as possible. But the whole notion of professional research creative support is another angle that certainly we need to think about. We don't have anything on tap for that, but it's a great call out. Yes?
Hi, I'm Drinko. I'm with undergraduate student government. You talked a little bit about how the nursing online program has received recognition, and that's really awesome. I was curious whether there's a plan to expand, or if there's targeted programs that to expand the online bachelor's programs both to broadly serve the state of Ohio, as well as remain a leader in the space of higher education.
The question really was around aspirations to grow these programs, and we're trying to be very focused. There are lots of institutions. You may have watched TV and seen the commercial of the big bus driving around from southern New Hampshire, celebrating folks' success. The president and I were out at Arizona State just a couple of months ago, and Arizona State has been a big player in reaching out, and of course we all know the University of Phoenix, which is not Arizona State University. I spent some time at a Big Ten university 1 state east of here, and their world campus was an early leader in this space. So what we don't want to do is rush into creation of programs where we can't identify a real market for those programs. Our approach has been to think about these certificate programs, some of the micro-credentialing that I talked about, as a way to serve some of the immediate needs in the population beyond. The students may have a different opinion about this, but those of us who are currently teaching you actually suspect that you're likely to face 5 to 7, not jobs, but careers in your working lifetime. And so one of the things we're thinking about from an Ohio State perspective, and especially that distance access perspective, is the possibility of being able to provide you, even sometimes with that one course that you need to pivot your life and go a different direction. So that's been our primary focus. We continue to look at a variety of undergraduate and graduate programs, but it's a very discerning look at that. Yes, back there.
Yeah, hello, my name is Caleb Hyden, and I'm an undergraduate senator. Something I'm interested in hearing more about is your sort of academic initiative towards inclusion and diversity. So I was wondering what that looks like a little bit with university faculty, what initiatives are being taken, how it's being funded, and more specifically what diversity looks like for the Office of Academic Affairs, as the Office of Diversity and Inclusion at this time has no definition for what diversity is. So I'd be interested in hearing that.
Well, I would have turned to our Office of Diversity and Inclusion for a good definition, so I'll have to work with James on that. On the faculty side, I see Kay is running out of the room, so I left on my own to answer this. Bye, Kay. Bye, Kay. You weren't fast enough. We actually have, first of all, we know that our faculty are do not represent the diversity that we would like to see in Ohio State, and that we must be for the future. You know, when we think about our student diversity, and we think about the fact that even in Ohio, we have reached the transition point where minority births are in the majority. So 20 years from now, those will be Ohio State students. We will not be successful in attracting and educating and graduating those students if we have not attended to the diversity in our faculty as well, because I feel very strongly we need to make our best efforts to look like the world that we serve. And there is incredible capacity all around us. And so we have several programs within academic affairs that we work with colleges and departments and schools to match funding, to help them think about increasing diversity in the faculty. We're looking at, it's for me, it is, and I'm not going to fall in the trap if James can't give you a definition. I'm not going, I don't feel comfortable saying I know exactly how we're going to define it for ourselves. This is something, if that's an accurate statement, we ought to be working on this, but I would say more generally that we need to embrace the diversity of voices and opinions and experiences from as broad a sector of society as we can. We think about this in diversity when we think about our international student populations. We think about it in terms of gender, but race, ethnicity, sexual orientation, experiences. We think about it from urban settings to our very rural populations. Ohio is a real snapshot of America in many ways, but it's very fragmented in terms of how it's distributed. So there are lots of things we need to be thinking about, and we in fact bring this conversation to our academic leaders on a regular basis, because we're doing many things right and many things not quite sufficiently just yet. So, it's a work in progress that really has to continue. Yes?
Hey, my name is Label, and I'm an undergraduate senator as well. So I heard you mention a lot about our global strategy and international students. And it's really phenomenal that Ohio State in today's situation is actually the few institutions that have increased number of international student enrollment. However, on the affordability side, I noticed that for international student fee is keep increasing. So I'm just wondering, is there any planning of increasing resource for international student in terms of enrollment and in terms of academic success?
Yeah, thank you. The question, for those who might not have heard it, was around as we've increased, and we were one of the very few major universities in the U.S. that had the opportunity to see an increased international enrollment last year. As we increase the enrollment, we need to think, just as we do for all of our students, about the affordability of the degree. And for international students, they have the resident-based tuition, they have the non-resident differential, and then there's an international student fee as well. Recently, the International Student Council has communicated with us to ask about how we're using that fee. Where's that investment going? And I've asked Professor Latz, the new senior international officer, to take that on so that we can provide an honest and transparent answer to that question. The international student fee hasn't increased in a couple of years now. It was increasing, but it's been stable the last couple of years. And so one of the things, you're exactly right, we need to pay attention to affordability, and we need to demonstrate how that is actually enhancing the experience for our international students. I would point out as a contrast, not as an excuse, but as a contrast, that Ohio State remains extraordinarily affordable to international students relative to almost all other Big Ten institutions. And so one of the things we have done well is keep that total cost lower than many of our peers. But that doesn't obviate us from the necessity of being able to explain what added value comes from that. It's things like English as a second language. It supports our pre-departure orientation at our Shanghai Gateway. There are a number of things, but we're working to provide that information so that all of our international student community understands what the use of that is. Maybe time for one more question right back here.
Hi, my name is Kitty. I'm also an undergraduate. I have a lot of questions today. But I just wanted to ask a little bit about, well, I know we've been making really great strides in our work toward mental health initiative
Yes.
this year in specific. But something that we've talked a little bit about in undergraduate student government is how incredibly entwined our academic lives are with our personal lives. And so being in the classroom, sometimes I think that the initiatives towards mental health aren't as much at the forefront as they are in student level. So I just wanted to ask if you have any plans, or if the university has any plans to kind of focus on mental health in the classroom as well as outside.
It's a great question. So it's the balance. Dr. J and I have been great partners. She's been here in this role a few more years than I've been here in this role, and so she's got the jump on me. But we generally try to have breakfast every Tuesday morning and talk about issues just like this. The question of how we can further embed sort of the mental well-being, the mental health of our students into the classroom, I think is a really fair question. For a lot of our students, it is in fact the pressure of academics that is a tipping point for decline in their well-being at any given time. This body actually took up having syllabus components actually talk about that, and we have a group that Randy Smith has been leading of the Associate Deans for Education from the colleges talking about what needs to be in the syllabus and how we access those sorts of things. Even when they're not fundamentally in the syllabus, there actually is a central place, but maybe you don't think to look at that. Part of our work, I think, is just continuing to make sure that our faculty are partners in understanding the pressures, and I would submit that our faculty are not immune from these kinds of issues as well. There's no monopoly on mental well-being occupied by students, and so it really is the Ohio State community that I think we have to attend to in all of this. Well, thank you everyone for your attention today. I came 4 minutes short of actually using that full hour and 17 minutes, so Ben, thank you for indulging. Appreciate it.